Hi, this is Walter Woody, the River Valley Democrat-Gazette. We're here with Waldron football coach Cain White, and we're going to talk about the 2023 football season here today at the River Valley Media Days, sponsored by Arvest and here at the River Valley FCA. First off, Coach, I know it's your first season. How was the off-season like this spring at Waldron?
It was fast and furious, to tell you what. So I moved to Waldron after spring break, and so we hopped right in and we prepped for spring ball. A lot of new stuff for these young men, and so before you can install anything new, you got to build relationships. And so having those one-on-one meetings with those all 37 young men and build relationships with your staff, that was the most important part. And we got that out of the way. We started to really click together, and then we went into spring ball and saw the flex bone and the 4-3 on defense, and so we learned a lot in a short amount of time. After our first day of fall camp, it seems like we retained a lot, right. So that's a positive.
And of course, you talked about moving to the flex bone, in this era of spread offense and things like that, and to come in something like the flex bone has got to be a nice off-key thing that opponents have to worry about.
Absolutely. It makes you a little tougher to prepare for because you don't see it as much. And I know I call myself a new old school guy. I bring that new school energy with an old school style on the field. And so I think the flex bone, it tailors to the type of athlete we have. Right. It tailors to our strength. It's not necessarily what I do per se, but I think it's what fits our kids best.
But the nice thing about the flex bone is you still want to run the ball, but with the two halfbacks flex, it does give you an option to throw the football, or when you do have a quarterback or kids that can catch it, make it even more of a throwing offense.
Absolutely. We've got big splits in the O-line. People compare it to the double wing. It's a little different. It's more spread out. Right. We want to stretch edges, and when we do throw it, we're going to throw the big ball. And so, people say flex bone teams aren't as exciting to watch, but I think it's pretty daggum exciting. All the research I've done on Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech and with the guys at Harding University, research those guys a lot. Those are fun teams to watch, and I think we're going to be a fun team to watch on the offensive side.
Okay. Talk about some of the kids. Talk about a little bit from the offensive side. Who are some kids that you think are ready to have a good breakout season?
Man, I tell you what, we've got some really fun pieces on the offensive side. Some people call it a quarterback battle, and I call it more of a teamwork type of deal. We've got two guys that are kind of jockeying for the quarterback position, senior Noah Patrick and junior Keegan Lynch, but they work so well together and they lean on each other and they're learning together. And so that's what makes those guys special. And so whoever it's going to be, I'm confident with. And whoever it's not is going to move somewhere else and be a factor, whether it be at slot back or wide receiver or on the defensive side. So that's going to be fun. We're really deep at the slot back position, which is really important. With senior Cason Davis, he's a returning two-way starter. Senior Joseph Rogers, he's a low 4.5 guy. Competed at the state level at the state track meet. Juniors Levi Brown and Cole Bailey, they're going to see a lot of time there as well. So really, we're 4 deep at slot back, and they all 4 make such an impact on the defensive side. We've got to keep them fresh. Right. And then so fullback, we're about 4 deep at fullback too, but nobody's really stepped up and said I'm going to be the guy yet. And so that's what fall camp is going to be centered around the offensive side, is who's going to have the fullback spot.
Right. And then how about defensively? You said you're going to a 4-3 look.
Yeah, it's going to be a wide 4-3, an attempt to contain some of those RPO spread teams in our conference, but while still honoring the run. I feel like at any level of high school football, you've got to stop the run first. Right. So that's where the forefront comes from. And so we'll roll a lot of coverages. We'll disguise a lot of coverages. You're going to see a lot of move around the back end, and they've done really well at the 7-on-7s and team camps we've gone to this summer. So I think they've picked up on the defensive side probably just as well as they have the offensive side. And so more of our defensive run game, that's what we've got to focus on here in fall camp. But, excited to be really deep on the back end, at the corner and safety position on the defensive side of the ball.
Right. And then lastly, you're coming into arguably one of the toughest conferences in any level of high school football in Arkansas, the 4A7, with teams like Arkadelphia and I think Mina's in there, Ashdown, Malvern. I mean, two of those teams are semifinalists. Of course, Malvern won the state title. So, and for a while I was at the Arkadelphia Harding game. It looked for a while like it was going to be Arkadelphia versus Malvern. So those two teams bring a lot to the table in that conference.
They really do. I call it the SEC West of Arkansas high school football. It really is. And so, that factored into me taking the job. People call me crazy or whatever, but I love competition. It brings the best out of you. They say no pressure, no diamonds. When we feel pressure, that's God wanting us to be our best. And so, going into those games, that's what I'm just going to try to get the best out of myself and my kids. We're not going to fear anyone. We're going to respect them because obviously they've done so much to be respected. The Nashvilles, the Arkadelphias, the Malverns, those are storied programs in this state, and hopefully one day we can turn this Waldron program into something like that. And so the respect level is there, and I hope we can compete with those teams because those are the teams that you're going to get their best every Friday night, and hopefully we can give them our best.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. This was Coach Cain White of Waldron High School. This is Walter Woody with the 2023 River Valley Democrat-Gazette Media Days, sponsored by Arvest.